a stool, but I thought that we could maybe warm up the day since it's a little bit early and we're all kind of, stretching. Some of us are teachers, so we're probably, we're used to getting up. So what I need 2 volunteers to do some simple math problems, in front of all of these people, which shouldn't be too nerve-wracking. So is there 2 math teachers in here maybe? Really easy problems, okay? What's your name?
Jim Brown.
What is it, Jabrell?
Jim Brown.
Jim Brown, and we need 1 more. Great, so no one can do simple over. Where is it?
I'm a math teacher.
Okay, so how about the guy in the red? What's the guy in the red name?
Matt Claxton.
Matt and Jim, okay? All right, so can you guys hear me? Okay? Okay, so we're going to do 5 problems, and we're going to make an evaluation at the end, okay? So Jim, what is 5 times 5?
25.
Okay. Matt, what is 3 times 2?
6.
Jim, what is 5 times 5?
25.
Matt, what is 4 times 4?
16.
Jim, what's 5 times 5?
25.
Matt, what is 10 times 12?
120.
Jim, what's 5 times 5?
25.
Matt, what is 8 times 7?
56.
Okay, so here's the question for the audience. Here's a poll. Who learned more math in this demonstration, Jim or Matt? Matt, right? But would it be a fair assessment to say that Matt would not be able to do the arithmetic without knowing how Jim did it first? Would that be a fair assessment? So the point being is that in this presentation, Jim is what we will call block practice. Math is what we will call random practice. So the point being is that Jim could not done the problems unless he knew systematically how Jim performed that obstacle, how he performed doing that problem. So that's what I'm here to talk to you guys today about is, as coaches, how can we maximize the talent of your guys' students to really bring them to their full potential? So first off, my name is Kyle Morris, and I am a tour player. I've been a tour professional for 8 years. Last year I played 35 weeks on the road in 17 different countries. I played on PGA, pretty much if there's a tour in the world, I pretty much played. I played last year mostly just PGA Tour Canada and Latin America. I played on some on the web. I started on the NGA Hooters Tour, so on and so forth. But I'm originally from Ohio. I grew up in Powell. I played at Olentangy. At Olentangy I was first team All-American. I was Central District Player of the Year. And then my high school memory, which Joel was our JV coach when I was there, my high school memory was at Apple Valley and OCC's, my team, we set a state high school record, and we shot 269. But the good news, or the bad news about that is that record lasted for about 34 minutes. Because someday, it was just everybody was hot, Scioto came in, and they ended up shooting 268. So, that party was fun for about a half an hour. Then after Olentangy I left, I went to Seton Hall University, where I was a ESPN All-American there, first team Big East, blah, blah, blah. Then I turned pro, got engaged, and graduated from college in a weekend, just hammer out the life decisions in 3 days. And packed up my bags and headed west, Oregon Trail style, with my wife to Scottsdale, where I played. Now, after I graduated, I had the luxury of sitting down with Jack Nicklaus on Friday of the Memorial Tournament in his house with him and his wife, Barb. And, we sat down for about an hour and a half, and after the conversation, one of the main things that I remember that I took away, because 2 weeks later he ended up writing me this letter of recommendation, which was a real blessing, because it was only one of 3 that he'd ever written. So that was really like a way to feel like I really had it to make it at professional golf. But when he left and I was reflecting on our conversation, one of the main pieces that I remember that he said was that he was one of the greatest in the world by practicing by mechanics and playing by feel. And that's what I want to spend our time with today, is how do we have our players practice by mechanics but play by feel? So the first thing is that in golf, there is no quick fix methodology. So a lot of times players, even you guys, all of us, right? We go to the range on a Friday because we have a Saturday morning Nassau match with our buddies. We just try to get a feeling of like what's working for that day. But the problem is is those ideas and those feelings are really short-lived. And there's no silver bullets in golf, except for maybe if the cart girl comes around and she sells them in a 6-pack. But in golf, there's no silver bullets. So to build a swing is, what we really want our players to do is to build a swing that lasts for a lifetime, not last for a moment. So one time when I was teaching, so aside from all this, now that I got home from Arizona and moved here 6 years ago, or moved back from being in Arizona 6 years ago, I needed a place to practice, so I opened a place in Dublin called the Golf Room, which we offer open access to Trackman, which is that thing on the PGA Tour where you see like the Pro Tracer and their red line and all the numbers they give, like Rory McIlroy hit at 318 and his spin rate was this and his club path was that. All of that stuff is done with a piece of technology. It's a $30,000 launch monitor that tracks golf balls and golf swings that was once used as a missile defense system, and now it tracks golf balls, which is kind of neat. So I once had a student, now that I'm teaching, because I'm still playing this year, but I'm teaching because I have 2 kids, and being gone 35 weeks of the year was not really enjoyable because I like being a dad. So I had a student come in to me, and I said, okay, well, let's have you warm up, and then we'll look at your swing, and we'll kind of evaluate it. He goes, well, what swing do you want? I said, that's kind of interesting. Well, how many swings do you have? His name was John. I said, how many swings do you have, John? He goes, well, I have 3. I go, okay, well, great. Let's see all 3. We'll hit them and we'll look at them. So I had him hit, I had him swing, and we looked at it. And the truth is that with Trackman, and this is across the board, not just with John, with Trackman and with the swings, all of the swings were the same. So he felt like he was making like monumental differences, and the truth is there was no difference. So the point being is that what Trackman has shown is that to change the dynamic parts of your swing, like the thing, when things are moving, you have to make dramatic changes. I mean, changes that feel so crazy you would never do them. So building a swing, though, when we're trying to build a swing, building a swing is a lot like putting a jigsaw puzzle together. So if I gave Joel a bunch of jigsaw puzzles, a bunch of pieces, and I said, Joel, just put this puzzle together, he would have no clue how to do that. But if I gave him a picture of what that puzzle looks like, now he could probably put it together. So putting a golf swing together is like putting a jigsaw puzzle together. You have to put different pieces in until finally the puzzle is complete, and now it's just about maintaining the puzzle. Okay? So Tom Kite once said that you learn mechanics first and then you learn feel, not the other way around. So the point being is that if your players are saying, hey, well today like I'm feeling this, but they don't swing really efficient based upon physics and efficiency, then quite frankly those feelings are wrong. Kind of like if Matt was saying, hey, like I'm doing a problem, but he says, well, I'm doing this and I'm feeling like I'm doing it this way, but he's getting the wrong answer. Like it doesn't matter what he's feeling. The problem's wrong, right? So the point being that Jim had the correct mechanics to do it, and whether first off, Matt has to know how the mechanics were done to do the problem, and if he didn't, if he's just going on feeling, then that's not going to work out. He's still going to get the wrong answer. So with a golf swing, there is different types and different ways to swing a golf club, right? There's Jim Furyk's way and Matt Kuchar's way and all that kind of stuff. There are different ways to do it. But there's also a way to swing that aligns with physics and efficiency that allows for the least amount of compensations in the maximum amount of time. So the question becomes, just to give you a little thing, I'm going to talk a little bit about the swing and then I'm going to talk about the practice because they go hand in hand. You can't do one without the other. So first off, what would be more efficient, a tiger in his prime or a machine? What do you guys think? Any ideas? Machine, right? So in regards to a model, there is a model swing that we could base around that's based upon physics and efficiency, and his name is Iron Byron. And he has a piece of turf out at the USGA. He lives in New Jersey, a piece of turf that's 1 foot by 1 foot, and every week they have to resod the area. That's pretty good. I'd like to hit balls like that. So what does Iron Byron do that makes him swing so efficiently? So Mac O'Grady, who was, he's kind of a little bit of an odd duckling, but he's incredibly brilliant. And one of the quotes that he said is, like I was saying earlier, a bad swing gives you minimum time to make the maximum amount of compensation.
where a good swings allows you to make maximum time to make a minimum amount of compensations. That's why us tour pros, when we're out, like we can have bad days and still shoot 71 because our swings are aligned around physics. So if like one little face, kind of like Jack Nicklaus just coming to mind, you hear about that one iron he hit at Pebble Beach at 17, his swing was really efficient. So he felt at the top of his swing that his face was a little hooded. So at like the last minute, he made an adjustment and ended up striking the pin down. But like that was just one adjustment, whereas a lot of people are trying to make like, you know, lots of adjustments because their swings aren't aligned with efficiency. So Iron Byron does have his shortfalls though, like he doesn't have a spine and he doesn't have hips and head, and most importantly, he doesn't have a brain, which gets in the way most of the time, right? This is Iron Byron. Just to give you, which you guys might have seen this commercial with him and Rory when they're trying to hit into a washing machine. So Tom Kite said that quote about mechanics. And the truth is that a golf swing, because I don't want to bore you guys with all the mechanics and all that stuff, but to make it as simple as it possibly can, the golf swing basically is parallel lines, right angles, and it's turning around a fixed axis. That's about as simple as you can possibly make it. So as a coach, if you're like, so, you know, this is great, Kyle, I'm a math teacher and I have no clue how to look at a golf swing. Like, that's not what I'm kind of paid to do. Well, if I was going to give like a really easy thing with golf, right, because it's parallels and right angles, is essentially when a club takes it back, and a student of yours is taking the club back, you want the club to go over the hands, and then when it comes down to go over the hands. That's pretty much, you know, that's like not an overly complicated thing to look at. Because you can see if the player was like this or like that, like those are more compensations that the player is going to have to move. And around the fixed axis, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the player who's in a tilt, because, you know, every athletic, like Aaron Rodgers throwing pass at the quarterback, like every Felix Hernandez pitching, like everything has tilt. We're trying to get the player to spin around the fixed axis as fast as he possibly can. And that's what these pictures are showing. So you can see in the pictures how Hunter, Rory, and Jonathan Berg, how all of their left arms are 90 degrees to their spine. And the reason being is, like, if you guys and if we were going to go out and play tetherball at one of your schools and go out and recess, right? And I would take a tetherball and fling it around the pole as fast as it possibly could. It would spin at the pole 90 degrees to the top. That would be its fastest velocity. Or if I was having a ball on my hand, I was swinging it like this, it would spin 90 degrees to my hand with a string iron. Or if a figure skater was spinning around a circle and they stuck their arms out, their arms would swing 90 degrees to their spine. So by doing that, it allows your arms to travel at their fastest velocity when they're 90 degrees to their spine. So a lot of the players, like Jim Furyk, right, he's 81 degrees at the top with his left arm, but then he reroutes his arms down because that's what aligns with physics. The clubs will always try to find physics. Or Matt Kuchar is really flat, but then he kind of reroutes to the top to get it aligned with physics. So that's what we're trying to do. So hitting in these kind of positions, that allows the player to make a swing with the least amount of compensations. So first, I just want to give like a little demonstration of how what we do and what the players are trying to quote-unquote feel is not real, right? So this is Chris. Chris came into our studio about 3 weeks ago. Chris was a 5 handicap, plays at Wedgewood. He played golf at Ohio University, so he's a good player. And what you're going to see is, can you guys see my mouse? Yeah. When you guys see is on Trackman, Trackman covers 28 different data parameters, so it tracks a lot of stuff, right? Which a lot of it can look like quantum physics if you don't know what you're looking at. But just for simple stuff, let's look at it. And these are some numbers I want you to remember. You have a club speed of 87 and a club path of -6 with a swing direction of -9 and a carry distance of 160. So that means that Chris is swinging -6 over the top, and hip to hip, his swing is 9 degrees left, which is 99% of this room probably hits cuts and slices, right? That's like the popular ball flip. So what you're going to see, here's a... So you can see he takes it outside his hands, outside the plane, and then the club head comes over the top and outside the plane. That's what's create that. So what we did, and this is how that you can't fix a car without tools, right? So what I did is Chris's hand plane was really over the top, and really over the top, not be on the proper plane of that 90 degrees. So rather than take up too much of your time, just imagine, well, this will kind of work. Just imagine this is a little longer. What I did is I set the noodle here, so this made, he went like this. So he raised his arm when he was doing that. So this changed his hand plane, so his spine, his arm, you're going to see, it gets 90 degrees to his spine, and then I made him swing under the cone. And this is kind of what they, and this is, and why do I remind you, this is all in like 15, 20 minutes. This, this wasn't a dramatic amount of time. So you can see he shallows his hand plane, and then coming down, he goes right through his right forearm, right down the plane, underneath the cone, right? And what's interesting is that you'll see he swings it at 76 miles an hour. Now these numbers are a little exaggerated because we're trying to get him to go the other way. His path is at 10, swing direction's at 9, but look at this. He swung it at 76 miles an hour and he hit it 4 yards longer. That's pretty good for 10 miles an hour slower. So then we took the noodles away and we had him practice. And now his club pass at 4.8, his swing direction's at 4. He swung it back at 87 miles an hour and he hit it 181. That's 21 yards further in 20 minutes. Like, that's quite a bit. And you can see that now his ball flight's changed where he's taking a little bit of a draw. So that's kind of, but the point being with this is that if a player says, one of your students says, well, I'm going to try to do this, and we're trying to get these players the best so they can go play collegiate golf and be the best in America, and then be best in the world. If you had a player who was like this, and you tell him to swing underneath the cone, he's going to say, I can never do that, ever. That's crazy. But we would all agree that this position is a perfect position. So you have a player who's kind of over the top. If he makes it over the top, he's going to hit a cone. So now he knows every single time he's practicing, every shot he's hitting in his block practice, which is working on his craft, every swing is made with a perfect golf swing. So now he's actually practicing. He's not just raking and hitting. He's like actually building his craft, and he's getting better and better. And this is what Joel will have his players do in the winter. In the winter, he'll have them doing inside of a classroom. They'll be doing block practice. They'll be working with cones, or like, if they take it back too far, they'll do like wall taps so they can figure out how long it is. Or like if they need to get their hands deeper, they'll put their hands against the wall and get their hands deeper. So there's lots of different things in block practice that you can have them do. But how, as you guys as coaches, because obviously you're not all PGA professionals and know the golf swing, how are you guys going to maximize their ability without drilling and tearing apart their swings? Well, Ben Hogan once said, to be an efficient fader of the ball, you must be an accomplished drawer of the golf ball. So what he was saying is that as a player, right, as a PGA player, and what pros do is that the best players in the world are relentlessly consistent to a standard of play. We all have a stock shot that we just like drill into the course. It's kind of like just death by paper cuts. It's just one after another, after another, and after another, right? So how could you do that on the range when you guys go out and practice? And what you can do is you can set up, you can have them play zone games, right? So what you do is you can get some old shafts at like a course, which are free, and you have them set up where this shaft is on the flag, right? And this is their zone, kind of like Jaybird has right there with his zone. And you have them hit shots where they're lining up square and they're trying to start the ball, whether they want to hit a cut, and you have this noodle over here. But you have them hit the shot where it's going through the zone and it's moving back to the flag, but it never crosses the line. Kind of like in bowling. If I was to bowl a curve, if that ball you never see a bowler hit a straight ball. Like that's really hard to do. It's a lot easier to have a little pattern to it. So you have them working towards the flag but never cross the line. So a bowler, if that ball curves and it crosses the front pin, no chance for a strike. But if he airs on the right side of the pins, he can always make it. And me personally, I like bowling shots from 150. So if a ball lands 4 feet right, it can now work towards the flag and go in, right? So you have to do that. And then you do this and you get really creative. And this is where you guys as coaches can really, really excel, is that everything in their practice needs to be driven by competition and consequences. And this allows them to like breed a fire inside of them. I remember as a high school player, our 2-man, he beat me 3 times in a row, and my coach, who you guys might know, Steve Yeomans, Steve said, John's playing 1 now. And I was furious. Like, this cannot happen. Like, I'm the 1-man. So I went out and played great. I mean, I won the tournament by like 5 or 6, and like But just that simple analogy of like burning the fire and saying, I'm not two, I'm a number one man, like those kind of things breathe the fire and the intensity inside their gut and their soul to say, I want to be really, really great. Right? So everything has consequences. So you play, let's say you have ball count out 20 balls and say, okay, how many can you fit that start in the zone, cross the line, cross towards the flag, but don't cross the line? You know, what's the world record for the team? Maybe it's 17 out of 20. And then the loser has a consequence. Maybe he's busting out 10 push-ups on the putting green on a public course. That's kind of embarrassing. I would probably not want to do that. Right? So everything will have competition and consequences. But the truth is that with high school golfers, this is kind of what they look like when they're standing over a shot. You know, in 1.5 seconds of thought, here's what they're trying to go through their brain. That's probably not going to work out, right? There's not too many 62s that are going to be shot when thinking like this. So how can we train them so that they're not thinking like this? So, going back to the analogy of Matt and Jim, you can't do the random practice without doing the block practice. So we need to refine their skills, and then once their skills are refined, then we move to the random practice. So it's a balance between both. And the truth is as coaches, that's your guys' responsibility to be able to evaluate the character of the player and figure out what side they need to go on, right? Like me, for example, I'm much more towards the analytic side and more type A than type B. So for me, this was one of the main diminishes in my career. This was why I didn't get to the level that I probably felt like I should have got to, is I didn't do enough random practice. I was really good at, like, you know, creating a really pretty swing, but pretty swings don't win tournaments. Golf shots do and low scores. So my brain looked a lot more like that picture. Where some guys are like, hey, coach, I just practiced by feel. Like, I can't think about any of that stuff. Well, you know, you just shot 82. Like, you probably need to practice a little bit, right? So it's like getting a balance between the two. Some guys you're going to have to push to block practice. Some guys you guys have to push towards the random practice. So Bob Knight said the key is not the will to win. Everybody has that. It's the will to prepare to win. That is important. And the thing is that, you know, doing this and bringing noodles and bringing cones and all that stuff, bringing that to the course, sometimes that's embarrassing. Like, why do you have a cone with you? This is a golf course, right? But you just say, you never take your car to a mechanic without tools, and my car needs fixed. So, this is how I'm going to get better. So being creative with a thing, and then the separation is in the preparation. I'm a huge Seahawks fan, so Russell Wilson's my boy. But you have to train like the 1%. You have to train like the top 1%. So as a professional, I need to train like the top 1% in the world. As an Ohio high school coach, you guys need to train your team like the top 1% in the state. And if you don't train like the top 1%, just realize you're not going to be in the top 1%. So you need to do those things that the 1% of the players are doing. And that's going to breed fruit and bear fruit from the tree that's going to allow you guys to do great. And the thing is you guys aren't just training these guys. And this is the beauty of coaches. We're not just training these guys to be great at golf. I mean, this type of training is this is life. You're training these guys to be the top 1% in their field, whether it's in business. You know, they're going to do the things that other people aren't doing that's going to bring them to the cream of the crop. So it's really instilling a great character to them and motivation to allow them to really be great. So what are some of the more ideas that we could do for random practice other than the zones, which I think is really, really great? One thing you could do is a wedge competition, right? So this is a picture of my coach, Mike Bender, with his wedge range. You can see the blocks there, and he's got a sign. The sign in the middle, that's the world record for the wedge competition. So like Jonathan Bird was there, and then luckily I knocked him off, and then he came back and knocked me off. So like that's fueling, because I want to be on that board, right? So that's building that. So a wedge competition. So what you could do is you could set cones or towels on the range, and you have them be like 3 feet by 3 feet. And you set them like 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. And it's how many balls does it take to land on each square, right? So like, let's say it takes 5 to hit the 30, and then like 2 to hit the 40. And it's how many balls? Like my world record is 37 balls to hit all towels. So what's the world record for the team? And then what's the consequence? Then you can have them hit 9 flight, which is, you know, like just have them hit not the 9 flights, high draws, low draws, mid draws, high cuts, low cuts, you know, low, mid cuts, high straights, low straights, mid straights. Then you can do the driver zone competition, which is basically setting the zone, see how many out of 20 or so, 18, how many fairways they can hit. Pitching wedge competition. This is kind of interesting. To teach guys how to hit it far, right? So to hit a like I hit a stock pitching wedge like 130, but I could stretch a pitching wedge to like 165 if I absolutely, some reason had to. I'm going to do a tournament, but you basically to hit a long pitching wedge, you have to swing super far from the inside and super de-loft your wrist, right? And that teaches a player, rather than the guy who comes over the top and his wrists are like this, that teaches a player to de-loft and try to hit far. So like Mike Bender, when he was on the PGA Tour, and Matt McGrady would have pitching wedge distance competitions to see who could hit it farther, right? And there's a lot of good things that are to it. Then putting competitions with low putt, you could, instead of doing putting competitions and then they like do pullbacks, right? Like where you miss it and then you pull it back and then they can make the 4-footer. You basically, you have some sort of consequence if they ever hit the putt and it's low. Because you can't, like the bowling analogy, you can't make a putt if it's low. Those don't ever go in. But the high putts, those have a chance. 5-star drill, that's just like, the whole, the 5 balls around the hole. You have them do it 5 times in a row and then make 5 balls, maybe do that sets of 3 or 5, and then they can go home and eat dinner. I want to eat dinner eventually. Then like Seve Ballesteros he practiced bunker shots with 6-irons. Because if you have a bunker shot, like here's a 4-iron, and you have to hit it with a 6-iron, right? You got to learn to like get really low and like release the bounce, and like that teaches you to get really good with your bunker play. That's how he practiced. So you learning the bounce and how to hit different shots, becoming really creative. Just 9-hole 30-footers, and then this one's really interesting. So everything that you guys should do, getting down to the mental side of it, should be nurturing rhythm, tempo, and balance. And that's a product of my mental coaches, which are P.M. Nielsen, Lynn Marriott, those Vision 54 gals. And this is what we really drill home. So like a great tempo drill is you pick out a yardage. Let's say it's 130 yards. And you have them hit 4 clubs, and they all have to weigh in 130. So you hit a pitching wedge 130, then an 8-iron 130, then a 4-iron 130, and then a driver 130. So they're figuring out the different tempos that need to be hit, and they can manage that. Because like if you're, trying to win Johnny's tournament at Ohio State, and you're sitting on number 18, and the kid's in the fairway, it's probably gonna be pretty amped up. So he might need to swing at 80%, or if it's a cold morning in October, he might need to swing it at 95. So that, that allows them to really get in tune with their tempo and their balance. And finally, it's just some short game stuff, which is obviously pretty important with putts and tournaments. So one thing, just a quick little thing is, what makes a putt go in, right? A putt goes in by speed and line, right? We would agree. Those are the 2 most important things. So obviously with putting, putting is not as technical or perfect as swinging, but there is a sense of physics to it, of building a swing built around physics and efficiency. So this, if you guys have ever seen tour guys or having these, this is what we call a putting arc or a plane board. And you can see it's built on a plane. This way. It's built on a plane, right? And this little white clip, you connect to the putter. So if the player was working on his block practice, and he was taking the putter back on plane, that's working on his path. Then if this white thing comes off like this, right, now his face is rotating. So now he's working on a perfect path with perfect face, because now his face is square to his plane. Now he's practicing how to putt correctly. That's block practice, right? The second thing would be, so that gets the ball starting or swinging correctly. Then you can see one of those putting shooters, I won't get it out, like the thing on the right there, that's a putting shooter. He hits those, how many can you get to go through without moving the balls? Right? That would be starting the ball on line. And then finally, you could do speed drills, which speed, I would imagine, and I know from, just being around high school players and working with them, that speed is really, really important. So you have them do speed drills because you minimize 3 putts. That's a huge thing in regards to strokes gained on the field, right? So making putts helps, but I think it's something like on the PGA Tour average, I think like, if you 1 putt, you gain a half a shot on the field, but if you 3 putt, you lose a shot and a half. So 3 putting, and I'm sure it's even more so with high school. You do 5 tee drills. So let's say this is the hole. You guys obviously, some of these you guys are gonna like. Some of you guys just say I'm not gonna do that, which is fine. What you do is you take 3 steps. You drop the tee, 2 steps, drop the tee, 2 steps, drop the tee, and you walk down till you have 5 tees. Then you drop 5 balls, and then you have them hit. You go like 1 putt, and then you have to get it past the front lip, but short of the noodle, or short of the club, or whatever happens. Then you move back and move forward. And then if they miss, like let's say they get here and they miss, then they go back. And let's say they go to 3 and then they miss. Well, then they can only go back 1. So like that first tee is done. And then it's, you have 20 minutes to complete the drill. What's the world record in time? But you got to go through your routine. So that would be building competition and consequences. And then finally, green reading. Like Tyler used to always say, he'd try to hit the window. So like if I had a putt, you'd have him sit the ball down, and then you'd have him say, okay, where does this putt break? They'd say, okay, up here. Then you put 2 tees or like a croquet thing. Those are like 6 cents that you could get. You put the croquet thing in the ground and say, okay, how many can I hit through the window? How many out of 10? What's the world record? So now it's like reading competition and consequences. So hopefully, you guys kind of have a little understanding of how you guys can take these guys and have the practice be actually geared, because every shot in practice has to have a purpose. Otherwise, they're just getting exercise. But if you want them to practice, now you're actually practicing with a purpose. So you're building their swing with block practice, and then you're maximizing their playability and how they're going to transfer to the golf course with their random practice. But you have to you have to know how to do it first before you go to the random practice, like Matt. Jim hammered out those 5x5s. He was great at them. So he probably could be going to Matt. Right? Now, if Matt missed one, if I gave him a real hard one, he might need to go back and do some more block practice for a while. So that same analogy would hold true with golf. So, and just to give you a little bit of insight on what we're doing over at the golf room. Basically, when I moved here from Scottsdale last year, I needed a place to practice. And one of my best buddies is Kevin Streelman, and Streels has this in his basement set up. And he's a member of Whisper Rock. He doesn't even leave. He just practices at his house, stays with his wife and his kids. So when we moved back, we built this room with Trackman, and basically we needed a place to practice in the winter because there was nowhere, you can go to the dome or whatnot, but Trackman with the information it gives and how precise it is really key. So what we do is, guys come here and practice. I teach. Then we do club fittings with like all the stuff that we have on tour, like Fujikura shafts and Oban and Acura, like all the exotic stuff. So we do PGA Tour fittings, and then what you guys might like is that we do Trackman. We do Trackman evaluations, which for a college program. So what we can do is we get their numbers and we create a proposal, and then we can send it to like Donnie for Ohio State, because the truth is that some parents don't have the financial means to go play AJGA events and spend $40,000 on their summer schedule. But if Donnie gets a kid who has won everything in Columbus, everything locally, right, and then he gets the Trackman numbers and sees, wow, this guy swings a driver at 117, his shot dispersion, his delta is really low, he has great numbers because Donnie knows it really well. Like this guy, even though he's not, on the national scale, like he might be someone I could take a flyer on, like finding a diamond in the rough. So it allows the coaches, and this is becoming more and more prevalent today, it allows the coaches to really look at the students objectively, rather than seeing kind of like what are the cards that they're bringing to the table. So, so yeah, that's kind of it. But if you guys have any questions at all about the swing, practice, playing on, anything, okay?
Is your proper spine angle that you like to see at a dress over the ball?
Well, there's 2 tilts in the golf swing. First is a side tilt, kind of like Aaron Rodgers throwing the pass or Felix Fernandez. Everything has tilt. So an easy way for the side tilt that you check it, and this is, most guys don't set up with tilts that are like this, which if you don't set up with tilt, you're automatically setting your arms to raise and go too high, right? So what you do is you have them set up, and then you have them take their right hand off, and you just have them reach down to touch the top of their right knee. And now they have a proper amount of tilt. In regards to the forward tilt, the way I kind of articulate it is you kind of want to feel like if there was a laser pointing out of your chest, the laser would point somewhat at the golf ball. So if he's like this, that laser is going to point over here. If he's like that, that's going to be inside the golf ball. So if his chest is pointing at the golf ball, that's going to be a good tilt forward. And all of that just allows the spine and the axis to swivel on its correct plane. So now the player, this is their spine, they're really working with the max efficiency to make their hands travel at the fastest speed of the ball at the top. Because the fastest way, point A to B from here to your house, would be to fly straight line. So at the top, the hands should take a one-way path to the ball, and that's like creating the most speed with their hands. They don't have to kind of take a detour with their hands. There was another question over here.
Yeah, with the numbers, does a straight ball go further than a draw?
According to Trackman statistics, there is a whole, if you want to call it an algorithm, or it's called D-plane actually, but I guess technically yes, the answer would be correct. That according to Trackman statistics, zeroing out is what they call it. That travels the furthest. And zeroing out, that's the thing. You know, me personally, everybody has a preference. I think it's easier to see one shot in your mind and have a one-way miss and eliminate a side of a golf course than to have a path that's at 0 and then a face a little bit off of that and everything's moving away from the flag. You know, I like to be able to stand in a fairway and there's water on the left and say it's never getting into that water. Because I did my zone drills with my driver and I never hit one left. I might have missed one right a little bit and it didn't curve, but I never missed left. So that eliminates the side. That's my preference. You know, some guys like zeroing out and stuff, but to answer your question, the question is this. Any others? Great. Oh, Matt?
That slanted line that you have up there, you drew that on after the fact, right?
Yeah, that line is what they, like Peter Costas draws on TV, that's the plane line. So when he set up, his hands were on the line, and then the club that's the shaft.
Okay.
And then this cone, if you were to ever do this cone goes right on the toe line.
Okay.
See how that's right on the toe line?
Yeah.
Because you know you wouldn't want it here, like gotta be too far inside, or like this. So now if he takes it back and they just barely brush it, that's perfectly taking it back. And then if they came down and they were right there, like that's perfectly on plane. Might be a little bit inside, but you know if he's normally over the top, a little inside might be good to kind of train him that way. Any others?